I have this idea that I call primal joy. But what I really mean by that is like, it's an activity that gives you a deep level of positive emotion, not like surface level positive emotion. Like you could sit there and just smile at a wall if you're that happy. And I think there are certain day-to-day things that do that, like a really intense session of exercise, or going in a sauna, or an ice bath, or a cold shower, or having a really nice meal with people that you care about, or a really deep conversation with a friend, or you're driving or walking and like a nice atmospheric, beautiful piece of artwork comes into your ears, right? And you can experience the landscape in a deeper way. Like I think certain parts of life, like music, physical activity, food with others, are like, they're primal forms of happiness that human beings have found joy in for hundreds of thousands of years. In the same way that, I'm obviously just basing it on what I've like listened to and read and stuff, but our earliest cultures as humans, we were going out and hunting, and that would be a difficult experience, chasing down an animal, having to fight an animal, or we'd spend hours going through nature trying to find fruits and vegetables and berries, and then we would come back in the evening and we'd have a shared meal as a tribe, and there might be music and dancing and singing, and like these are the things that make the deepest part of you happy. And that's what I mean when I say something gives me primal joy.
Yeah, so it's kind of, instead of consuming something and getting stimulation, it's like you produce the stimulation.
It's a neutral high rather than having something externally doing that. It's like you take part in an activity and the joy comes from deep within you. I like that a lot.
Inputs, joy from inputs, not outputs. I guess it's because you feel that you've done well, fundamentally as a person, and that's able to give you joy rather than the external factor.
Yeah, and it's not always easy. It's not something you can just like decide to do, and within 10 minutes you're feeling better. It's like sauna, that's 15 to 20 minutes of discomfort, really. I mean, actually the first 10 minutes are all right, but when you're getting near the end of that, like you are overeating, like your brain is telling you you're dying. And then when you go out and you go and cold plunge or whatever, the relief and the neurochemical hit you get from that is like nothing, I think, in my life. Like a difficult training session, a sauna session, or hot and cold therapy, and good food with people I care about. They're like the three things that, and also good rest as well. Like you get really good night's sleep, that gives you primal happiness. You know what I
mean? So is this kind of a philosophy then, or is it something that you kind of apply to an activity?
Is it a philosophy? It's more like, can you see through the mirage of like modern bullshit stimulating forms of like pleasure and instant gratification and be like, right, what actually makes me happy to my core? So like, I'll give you an example. I haven't been reading as consistently as I'd like. Then I went to Waterstones in Bromley, this massive bookshop, like the biggest bookshop I've been to. It's not that big, but for me it was big, right? Bought 5 books, and I've read the first one within like 10 days. And like that gives me more long-term, deeper happiness than like watching YouTube videos, even though at the time like YouTube videos are more enjoyable. The fact that I've read a book in 10 days and I actually have a lot of ideas from that book that I'm then going to talk about on this podcast and have then helped the way that I've thought about the world over the past week, like that's a more deeper version of joy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I because I got your YouTube account, I see your history.
Oh yeah.
I was slacking, I think it was today. You were watching it was like a Sidemen video or something.
Well, that's maybe one of my weaknesses, right? Sidemen Among Us videos are actually really entertaining. That's like my kryptonite. Yeah. When I eat meals and stuff and I'm on my own, like maybe there's a part of me being a kid. You have certain like YouTubers that you watched when you were like, I don't know, 12 to 15. Like the same reason that I watch every Chris MD video that comes out. I don't give a shit about football. I really don't give a shit about the content of the video. It's just the fact that like, I used to watch him as a kid and it's entertaining, so it's nostalgic. But yeah, despite that, as much as you might bring me up on that, I have read a book in the last 10 days. So, it's about...
I think kind of we need to have a a poison that we consume, a guilty pleasure, maybe. I think that I can understand why that's real, and I think that's fair. I mean, I haven't watched those videos, and I imagine that they're probably quite good.
Also, there's a difference between like my housemates went out for a meal last night, and I was home alone, and like I was eating like stir fry with rice and that, and I was watching that video. That is totally different to me watching it at 11 a.m. when I was supposed to be doing work. Do you know what I mean? It's like the end of the day, I've already put in I had a really different, like training yesterday was like, I could wring my kit out again. It was like grueling. I got up in the morning and contributed to a YouTube script. Like I'd done the work I wanted to do. And then in the evening, you switch off. Like for me, post 7, 8 p.m., like don't get me to do anything smart. I don't, you know what I mean? Like I can have a conversation, but that's about it.
When do you start turning off? Like 2?
Now, yeah, well, maybe, bro. Nah, like it depends, innit? It depends. I'm getting myself in the habit of reading and stuff in the evening again because I feel like that's very useful and stretching as well, just for my recovery and stuff. But I'm not as smart as I am at 10 a.m. when it's like 4 to 10 p.m. You know what I mean? I'm just not as smart.
I wonder if that's actually kind of like a normal thing. So like, there's maybe some research on different times of the day where people are more intelligent. I guess people say mornings, but then also in the morning people have cereal that
yeah, man.
The shit.
Well, actually, there is circadian rhythms have. Well, actually, it's more like there are certain rhythms in what they call cognitive fatigue or like focus. So the research says that your brain goes through certain cycles of like brainwave activity, and your like razor sharp focus is only like 90 minutes apparently, and then you take a break and then that cycle begins again. Whether I'm fully in favor of that idea of like exactly 90 minutes, I don't know, but I do agree that brain power is a finite resource. You can't just sit and do stuff for 4 to 5 hours. I mean, some people claim they can, but no, you can't.
Yeah, I think maybe if you've had 10 espressos.
Yeah, if you keep caffeinating yourself, eventually you can probably keep going, but then, you know, you'll go to bed at night and have a crap rest and wake up the next day feeling worse and worse and worse and so on. So there's a matter, but
I had the lion mane mushroom.
Hey, let's go through that anecdote. So you got the coach to London at like 4 a.m. in the morning and you found a Black Sheep coffee company. Where was there one? Right by the bus station?
Yeah, right by it.
So did you plan that, or did you get off the bus and see it there and go, wow, that's what?
My bus was actually like, I missed one of them. So I had 2 hours to kill and it was literally just like couple minutes. And I was like, this is ideal, because actually even the other guy's pissed that this coach is late, and I'm like, this is great. I've got 2 hours now to explore this coffee shop that Jill recommended. And
what's your review?
Yeah, I think I was more aware. That's the only thing I noticed. So for the listeners, there's this same mushroom was recommended by a guy called Marco Williams. Is one of the main mushrooms that you should consume that help with like memory and other things like that. And so they do it legally in this coffee shop in London. And I took it, and I took in a latte, and from a slightly dodgy guy.
I could tell he was dodgy.
He had it looked like he'd been in a fight like a week ago. He had like a black eye or something.
Well, the guy that served you.
Yeah, and it's vibey in there as well. There's some good pictures,
isn't it? The music.
I didn't get the one with the evolution, but there was like, some other art bits, and the main thing I noticed was just an increase in awareness, but it wasn't major. It was just like a little bit. Another lion's mane mushroom in there would have been good, but yeah, I think it was 2 hours of like just good like focus. Your brain becomes sort of heavy with focus,
Yeah.
Um, is that sort of simple?
The key question is, had you eaten beforehand?
A little bit. Like I think, yeah, that probably make a difference. Yeah.
Personally, that makes a difference to me. Like, I think and it also depends. The one where I go, you can have a choice of which coffee bean they put in the latte. One's like a chocolatey hazelnut coffee bean like blend, and one's like the normal, but it's kind of higher in caffeine, it said, and I picked that one. So I think it's a combination. I reckon when you have that lion's mane coffee, it's a combination of empty stomach, high amounts of caffeine, and a bit of the mushroom, and maybe a bit of the placebo as well, that that there's something extra in this. But I don't know. I'm glad you like the vibe in the place, and it was just cool you were able to, from me talking about it, you saw it and was able to go. Yeah.
That I was just thinking of it. Off topic. The phrase "heavy is the head that wears the crown."
Yeah.
I think it's quite deep. I think when you say to me, it means when you have obligations, responsibilities, your head comes like a storm, and you've got to carry around all this in your head all day. So you think about these people that have these things, but their head's exploding with the stress.
Yeah. Yeah.
That if you want to wear the crown, you got to kind of fuck up your psychology.
Yeah, I mean, it's that bit of Elon on the Lex Friedman podcast where he said people think they'd want to be me, but they don't. My mind is a storm. No, it's like, how much mental clarity would you want to sacrifice to be someone of really high status in a certain field or something? I don't know. It's a good question.
You value your peace of mind a lot. It's something to consider.
Or more than anything, the one thing. I mean, even my point today that I want to lay out to you is just the TLDR of it is just peace of mind is more important. I can go into it now if you want. So I read The Way of Zen by Alan Watts. It was just funny to buy a book that was written by Alan Watts because of how much content is that I listen to of him lecturing, or just melodic tunes that have his narration in. So it was quite good to actually read a book he'd written. And there was a lot of history and difficult language and all of that going on that I sort of didn't really enjoy, but trudged through. It went through trudging. I'd say every 30 pages or so, there'd just be a paragraph that would just hit me, and I'd be like, that is good. Actually, let's pause for a sec. I'll go and get it because I want to read you some bits. But the general premise that I got from it, and I'll see, because I haven't really practiced how I'm going to articulate this, so I'll just go and see what happens. He argues that from these Eastern religions and philosophies that he's been researching and talking about, is this idea that human beings assume that they are separate from the world. There's you and there's the world, or there's you and there's reality. Reality is probably a better way of thinking about it. And that you act and control reality. That is the human assumption. And his argument is that that's wrong, because you are an aspect of reality. The same way that a tree is, or a spider in your bathroom, or the clouds in the sky, or the grass on my neighbor's lawn. We are all just part of reality like that. But because you have a human consciousness, a human ego, you have a sense of self, you have a sense of experience, you feel like you're separate from everything going on around you, there's this illusion that there's you and reality, whereas you are reality, like everything else going on. And the belief that comes with that is then you don't really have control of what's going on. The only thing you have control over is your awareness of the present moment and the events that are flowing through you. And the classic things that people think about, the past and future are just illusions and all we have is right now. But his argument is you are reality experiencing itself in the present moment. And that's a sick sentence to think about. And he also said that one of the biggest sources of human distress and frustration and mental health problems is and this is like the exact phrasing he uses, is we try and grasp onto reality. We try and grasp onto life. We try and control things. We try and make tomorrow exactly how we want it to be, or the next 10 years, or today, right? We try and force our actions and our thoughts and our feelings to be a certain way, right? Grasping onto reality tightly, when we should just let go and let life be what life is, because we are just a part of life, just as the sun shines and the trees grow. We are the same thing. And with that, the way to awaken and enter a state of Zen, or be one with Zen, is to be in the reality, not trying to control it and thinking that you're a separate thing. Be the reality that you are. So obviously that's a very extreme way of viewing the world. And I think there is truth in it. There feels like there is truth in it. But the pathway I'm using to apply this stuff to my life is with a bit of a balance. So I'm actually going to put this in a video that's going to come out over the next week or so. But I agree with his argument that we are just a part of reality, and maybe we don't have true control about what happens. But what I argue back is that that's not how life feels. Life feels like what we do matters. We do have an experience. We are living out a kind of narrative, a kind of story. So you need to have a balance point, right? And I put it in the same context as the drill sergeant and the Alan Watts character, right? The drill sergeant wants to completely control his actions and control his future. The Alan Watts character just wants to float around and meditate and be aware in the present moment. Where's the middle line between that? And I think the middle line is, you try really hard in life, you do things to the best of your ability, you put in effort, and then you let go of outcome. We talked about it a lot before, but it's like clarifying that in my brain, as that's like the Zen way of approaching things. And I had my first training session with my new basketball team last week, the Prem team. And I didn't necessarily play bad, but I didn't necessarily play good. Like, I know that I can do so much better than I did in that session. And the reason I didn't play well is because I wasn't taking it from the approach of Zen. I was grasping at that training session as much as I possibly could. I was trying so hard to perform well, to impress new players, or to integrate myself into the team and be respected, that in doing so, I took myself out of the present moment. And I was I was overplaying in the way that I made moves on the court and the way that I made decisions, to the point that you're thinking so much about the decision that you don't make the right decision. It's like in the book, he says, doing things in a state of Zen, or a state of Wu Wei, he calls it, which is like not forcing anything, is that decision and action are simultaneous. There's no block between, okay, I'm going to decide to do this, then I'm going to do it. You just do it.
In the right decision that you have to try and make.
There's just doing it. There's just the decision and action are the same thing. It's just the playing basketball. It's not thinking about playing basketball then doing it. It's just doing. It's just playing. And I came away from that session quite pissed off with myself. Not only because I didn't do what I can usually do, but actually that it was because I was overthinking, and then I was overthinking about the fact I was overthinking. Like, I got annoyed with myself, and then I was annoyed that I was annoyed, because I'm like, this isn't how I want to live my life. I want peace of mind. I want to be able to go to a place, try and live with the outcome and be happy, right? The difference is today, after reading like certain sections of this book, I had another session it was a small group session with some of the players from that team. And yes, I didn't play the best I could. I didn't play bad. It was sort of another middle of the road, maybe average, slightly above average performance. But I left there and I don't care now. The session's done, right? I tried hard there. The result I've let go of. I'm not grasping onto it. And that's the mindset that I'm going to try and approach my sport with now, and my content that I make, and maybe social interactions, and just general personal development. You put the effort in because that's rewarding. That's meaningful. But in terms of getting results out of the world, trying to grasp on and grab onto life, grab onto your accolades, your achievements, your ego, I think I'm done with all that. It's like, you come out of it, you've had a good session. How do you know you've had a good session? You scored more than the other people. But that's your ego's idea of what a good session is. Just go and do things. Like, be in the present moment and play. Try hard and let go. So that's a philosophy I'm going to try and integrate into different parts of life now, and we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll update you in a few weeks' time and see if I'm still having that in the front of my mind. But yeah, tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, I wrote a couple of things down. Can you talk a bit more about you and reality versus you are reality? Like, I'm trying to get through my head. So you're separate from what's real or what's going on outside. What's what the state that everyone's in. Or you kind of like take control of it. Like, I don't. Yeah.
So I think the best way to think about it, to explain to you, is the human assumption is that there is me, okay, Joel Clifton, right, and then there is the world, and that they are two separate entities, and that I can act and control parts of the world, right? But the argument is that that duality, that me and the world, is just a result of the human ego. Whereas the reality is that I am as much as part of the world as this pair of headphones in front of me or this water bottle. I am part of reality like everything else, right? And that there's me, there's my physical body, and then there's the air, and there's this desk and this chair. But the way that my body then makes contact with my clothes and make contact with the chair is just the same way that a tree makes contact with the soil, and then the leaves make contact with the tree. It's all just part of whatever the hell's going on of life. And there isn't this big separation between you and life. You are life just as much as anything else. Does that make a bit more sense?
About the law of one. That was called.
There is just reality, and you are a conscious part of it. And that's what makes it interesting, is that you are aware that you're alive. But if you weren't aware that you were alive, you would just be like the birds in the trees.
Okay, so you're a part of it rather than it being a thing that you sort of can control
or experience. Like you are just a part of reality experiencing itself. Like, imagine if a tree became conscious and then decided that it was no longer part of the outside world. You'd look at the tree and go, "What are you on about? You're part of the world." Well, that's the same for you. I mean, obviously, I'm still like a student of this stuff and I'm learning about it, but that's what I've gathered from this.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah, that means kind of we're all the same worth, and we're all kind of coming together we're all in it together. Or not. There isn't as much ego. There's no ego at all.
No. And I want to read you this. I want to read you two quotes from this book, and I want to see what you interpret from them. And I literally highlighted them with a green highlighter pen as I was reading, right? This is one. He sees that his grasp upon the world is his stranglehold about his own neck, the hold which is depriving him of the very life he so longs to attain. That is like your grasp upon the world, wanting everything to go in a certain way, is stopping you from experiencing the world.
You want control so bad, and when you don't get it, it's killing you.
Yeah, exactly. And this other quote I literally just read before we got on this call when I finished this book, and it's a long one, but I was like, I was starting to leave things out of it, but then I couldn't, right? So I read this to you. Zen is a liberation from time. For if we open our eyes and see clearly, it becomes obvious that there is no other time than this instant, and the past and the future are abstractions without any concrete reality. Until this has become clear, it seems that our life is all past and future, and that the present is nothing more than the infinitesimal hairline which divides them. From this comes the sensation of having no time, of a world which hurries by so rapidly that it is gone before we can enjoy it. But through awakening to the instant, one sees that this is the reverse of the truth. It is rather the past and future which are the fleeting illusions, and the present which is eternally real. We discover that the linear succession of time is a convention of our single-track verbal way of thinking, of a consciousness which interprets the world by grasping little pieces of it, calling them things and events. But every such grasp of the mind excludes the rest of the world, so that this type of consciousness can get an approximate vision of the world only through a series of grasps, one after the other. Thus, superficial consciousness can awaken to the eternal present if it stops grasping.
Yeah, it is. It is grasps. It is. You try to envision the future, and you can't fully remember the past. So, I guess you'd rely on the proof that of who you are in the past. I mean, I kind of understand more the future is an illusion than the past. Because that's kind of, we will have a worldview of what we're going to be like in 5 years. But I mean, the past the thing is, I mean, is the past an illusion though? Because like that happened and you kind of remember it. So it might just be experiences that you've had rather than an illusion.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we, as human beings in our society and in our cultures, in our social groups, we use our memory of the past to sort of hold what we have together, right? If me and you couldn't remember the past and we came onto this call to have a conversation, it wouldn't be possible because I wouldn't know who you were. I wouldn't know what relationship we had. I wouldn't know why we're on a call together. I wouldn't know what the purpose of this is. It would all become vague and confusing, right? Because everything would just be new all the time. Every day, every second of every minute would be new. And that'd be quite overwhelming, that complexity. So we use the past to know, like, okay, your name's Jacob, my name's Joel, we're cousins, we're good mates, we have a podcast, we have conversations, this is what we're here to do. But is that really real, or is that just thoughts in our mind? Yes, those things have happened, we know each other, but all I am in this moment, really, on a fundamental level, is a animal making noises at another animal through a form of technology. That's what I think. Right? No. Well, it sounds, I know it sounds really weird, Jacob, and this makes me sound mental, but Joel Clifton is just an idea. The same way that Jacob Matthew is an idea. They're a collection of ideas of things that have happened in the past. If you didn't have memory, who would Jacob Matthew be? Well, it'd just be the organism that I'm staring back at via Zoom. That's what you really are. So I'm not saying you shouldn't have a sense of self. You definitely should, because to be psychologically healthy, you need that. You need a healthy sense of who you are or what you're here to do and an identity. But that's not you. That's the play in the world.
That the sense of self comes from the past and the future.
Yeah. That's what we use the past as justification for who we say we are.
Yeah, I think that maybe the solution is not to hold on to the past. There'd be a hypothetical of it, and then also hold on to the future because it might not get the way you think it is.
Well, that's exactly what Alan's saying, isn't it? Don't grasp. Be here now.
But you might as well assume that nothing's going to go the way it should. That nothing's going to go the way you want it to.
No, it's sort of like now my philosophy towards sport is like I used to love. I do love the high of you leave a training session or a game and you think you've played well. But I hate the crashing low when you leave somewhere and you didn't match up to your expectations. That kills me. So I'm like, okay, could I sacrifice the high of feeling amazing when I play well and then also kill the low that I get if I don't play well and just go and play? And once I've played, you try and abstract the lessons of how I can improve potentially, but you don't dwell on how it went. And when you play well, gloating in it anyway is not a good trait. You should be humble. You should give the credit to your teammates that they got you in that position, and because without them you wouldn't be able to do what you do anyway. So it's like it's having you're never as good as you think you are, but you're never as bad as you think you are. Mental. You just are. That's it. You just are, because all judgment on what we do, that's just part of the mind. It's not what reality really is.
Yeah, it's also giving inputs and just giving with no expectation. Like giving value. Like that's what I needed to think about more when I was trying to create scripts and not thinking that the part of the video was good enough. It's like really all you can do is not hold on to the past and the past performances, and you just kind of have to show up and do your best, then take a little bit from it and move on.
That's it. And I'm pleased that there was a big difference between today and last week. in how I left that training session, because I realized that when I'm shooting in a session with people that I know back me, or when I'm on my own on a court, like I can shoot the lights out. It's because I'm not thinking about how I should shoot. I'm just shooting the ball. And when I'm in an environment where I want to be good, I start deciding to shoot well. But in doing that, I come out of this flow. I come out of the eternal now. And I'm thinking about, right, in the next 5 seconds, I'm going to take this shot and my form is going to be this way. And I want to bank it off the backboard at exactly this angle at this point. And it's like, Joel, just shoot the ball. Just stop thinking. You know what I mean? Just do it. Make that simultaneous moment of decision and action become one, and just play the game. And if it goes bad, well, you didn't die. You know what I mean? There's always another time. Like, go home and sleep well and don't give a shit about it. Because outcomes aren't fully our control. There's so many things outside of us that we have no power over. It's just our mentality and our approach. That's what we've got.
I think there can be links as well to sort of being yourself, because you don't hate your old self as who you are. You kind of can recreate it every day, but it's also not trying to be like someone who you want yourself to be in the future. And I can kind of link that to that. Is a really beautiful quote of the persona cannot be loved, it can only be praised. So like when you're off key, that can only you seeing like you you seeing how another basketball player shoots, that's in like a higher up league, and you try shooting like that one session and it goes well, but you're not him, so the next session it might not go well, and therefore you're loved. Therefore you're praised but not loved.
Well, think about it this way. You can tell when someone is being inauthentic in like a social setting. You know, when someone's just like making unnecessary jokes that aren't funny to try and like make you laugh, and it's just a bit like, you're just being weird, mate. You know, someone's just trying to fit in too hard. They're like spring onto that social situation, and you just, there is a part of you that's a bit averse to it. You're like, what are you doing, bro? You know what I mean? That's not you. Like, what are you trying to do? And it's so weird that we can actually pick up on that. It's like, it's a vibe thing.
But also, like, with this philosophy, you kind of have to, you kind of look about how many people are off key. Like, I think the way that it's even like, so it's the problem with mass ideology that's being hierarchical, passed down, as like your identity is like shifted and like formed by kind of institutions, and therefore like how many people are actually being themselves. And that's kind of one of the main reasons that I want to be self-employed, because it's also freedom, I guess. It's like that it's too much of you is defined by this identity that's been placed upon you, and
Well, it's like, how many roles have you had to play in the world that have painted over who you actually are to the point that you can no longer see who that is? And that's why I don't like using terms like I'm a basketball player or like I'm a psychology student, even though I do use that a lot because it's things that people like understand, or like I'm a YouTuber, like I'm a podcaster. Like I'm not that, right? That boxes me up into this small category of humans. Like, it's kind of like how Watts talks about when you label a leaf as a leaf, it limits its beauty because you paint on that object the idea that you have a belief. Like, if I say I'm a basketball player and a YouTuber and a psychology student and a podcaster, it's like, Now there's all these labels put on me. That's not me. And me is the guy that's doing that thing, and I don't know who that really is. I'm discovering that as time goes on. And I think
What were you?
a label because they're scared of maybe questioning who or what they are.
But what are you supposed to say then when someone's like, introduce yourself? I'm a sick human.
You do. You have to use the worldly labels because that's what people understand, and it works. But if being honest, like, what do you do? Like, I'm just here, man. I'm experiencing. That's what I'm here to do. I'm a consciousness that's having a human experience. That sounds so weird, but that's how I think about it.
Yeah, I remember when you told me once when someone asked you, what do you want to be? And then you were like, do you want a job title or a philosophical statement?
That's it though. Like, do you want the worldly label or do you want the real truth? Because the worldly label might be, I want to play professional wheelchair basketball and I want to make money like writing books and articles and stuff, right? I want to make a living thinking and talking about ideas. Like, what I actually want is just to love and be loved. You know what I mean? Like, it's cringy and like mushy as that sounds. Like, I just want to have peace of mind, mate, and make the world a better place and like eat nice food and get a good sleep at night. Like, that's what I want. Like, all the other stuff is just the worldly things you need to do.
Yeah, the job title's pretty horrible, to be fair. I don't like I kind of don't like the fact that people have a title on themselves because it just creates assumptions and you know nothing about a title either. What goes into it?
No. Well, that's how stereotyping works. Stereotyping has a negative connotation because we think about it in terms of like racial stereotyping or gender stereotyping or ability stereotyping or, all these discriminatory ways of it. But we stereotype everything. If you told me that you're a business student, well, I have a stereotype of what that means, right? Or if
Doesn't know what to take.
exactly. Or like, someone tells me they're a doctor or they're a lawyer or they are an animal communicator. You know what I mean? Like, I have certain stereotypes of people in my head through experiences I've had that then inform how I think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's quite funny. Only one attorney likes being, only one lawyer she knew liked being a lawyer. And like you kind of assume like a lawyer is this rich, quite established, smart person.
Yeah.
But there's all these like ways around the title, these darkness around the title.
100%, man. 100%. Do you really want to work for somebody else like 80 hours a week? Or like 50 hours a week? Or even like the normal 40-hour full-time work week? Like, would that make you happy?
Do you reckon you could be a doctor, Joel?
Well, could be. Well, I need to go into like the 7-year training or whatever. I could do it. Whether I would and would enjoy it is a different question.
You kind of used early on. You taken yourself out of the bracket of kind of psychologist and stuff like that. It's like you want more the kind of life coaching. And
I don't like that type. That's horrible, mate. That is very gonna say. I'm not that guy. I'm just a human that like talks about being a human and expect anything from it. But yeah,
I mean, what kind of life coach?
right, if anyone is self-proclaimed as a life coach, they're a knobhead.
I've seen them online.
I mean, maybe if you're like Tony Robbins, you know what I mean, he's been doing it for like 30 years and like his workshops change people's lives and he's written multiple books and stuff. You're like, okay, yeah, he can have that title. 19-year-olds that waffle about shit and that not many people watch, like, no, I'm just a guy. I'm a guy learning things and talking about it. Full stop. And I'll always be that guy. And hopefully I can make a living from being that guy because I like being that guy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's kind of you like to help people. You like self-help, help themselves. I need help.
Yeah, I mean, even that self-help is such a cringy like idea in itself. Like, but then I guess when I went to Waterstones and I went into the self-help section, that was all the books I'll read. Maybe I'm a self that needs a lot of help, so I just talk about how I'm helping myself. You know,
Yeah, you talk about how you help yourself to help others.
yeah. If other selves find it helpful, you know what I mean. Like, if they don't, fine. You know.
Yeah, well, listen, who's your? So you've got like 1.6K subscribers now. What's your audience like?
Um, I'm not really sure. Probably eight. I think it's 18 to 25-year-olds and like 80% male. That's all I know, really.
Yeah, it's quite a hard thing. I've been trying to figure it out with the podcast. It's kind of a bit random. Some people that know Swami, like Medahanda, know an animal communicator.
I mean, there's good answers. There's good answers to this question, right? There's a guy called Dan Coe who is a great like source of information if people want to get into like content creation and finding a niche and stuff. And what he says is like the niche is you. So you make content that you would watch and enjoy and learn from. Maybe you now, maybe you 5 years ago, maybe you 10 years ago, but still you. So like in the podcast, my idea of it is that the people that will find this and enjoy it are other Joels and Jacobs. Because you are
The youngest.
yeah, well, even the self now, because you were interested in Swami Medhananda, you were interested in the animal communicator. You had the conversation, you wanted to be there. You'll listen back to it and find it pleasant. So it's other Joels and Jacobs in the world.
We just need people that are really curious and don't mind us talking to whoever, whenever.
Yeah, exactly. Just us chatting shit, mate. And even if no one cares, I'm happy.
Then, yeah, man. Yeah. Your last video. How did you feel?
How did I feel about it?
Yeah, because it's like another flop in it.
Is it though, Jake? Or is that just a judgment from how many views it has? Was it a flop?
I mean, you got quite a few comments that seemed that they felt value.
I mean, I enjoyed making it. I felt valuable to me. It's another rep in the tank. Like,
There's another input.
I don't need the video to blow up now. I don't need anything really. I just would have one day like to be able to make a living talking about and thinking about big psychological ideas. But for now, I don't really mind. We can learn from it and go, right, okay, when did the retention drop off and how well did the thumbnail do and how did I find the process and how can I improve it? Yeah, all that's true, but I no longer care about that kind of stuff because in my head, if I'm making authentic, valuable content one day, I will find other Joel Cliftons that will enjoy it.
Yeah, it like when do you kind of need to be a speaker? Like, it can I just have a small audience?
I need to be intellectually and verbally fluent enough that I know what I'm talking about. And I need to be able to lay out an idea in a way that people understand. It's not too complicated, not too simple, that is valuable to them. And I've got years to do it. I mean, this is actually links to another video that I scripted before. I came across Jordan Peterson lecturing in 1996 when he was a professor at Harvard in his Maps of Meaning course. All right, that was exactly 20 years before he made it and went mainstream with all the controversy around him. And then he got on Joe Rogan's podcast and he became a sort of global phenomenon like he is now. And you watch those Harvard lectures. I watched like the first hour of the first lecture. He's talking about the same ideas that he talked about 20 years later. And he said himself that in 1985, he started writing Maps of Meaning and he started taking his ideas seriously. Over 30 years before he made it mainstream. But yes, he was a professor and he's a very successful professor and he'd written a book in 1999 that was published. But like, that guy is huge now. And he's became huge 30 years after taking his ideas seriously. So it's like, that's why he's so good at what he does. And if I want to become a guy, even the fraction of his intellectual ability and his ability to articulate himself and provide people with a path towards meaning in life based on actual research and experience, not just a 19-year-old claiming to know shit, then I've just got to keep learning and practicing, just like we're doing right now. This is my playground. This is my dojo. This is where I learn how to be the guy I want to be in 20 years' time.
Yeah, it's similar Robert Greene. He just went on Modern Wisdom again, quoting an episode.
Yeah, I've actually listened to it, mate. I've been a bit sort of here and there with Modern Wisdom these days, but I love Robert Greene's story, how he only wrote 48 Laws of Power when he was 39. You know,
It's painful as well. You go through that long wanting to be something.
but it's only painful if you're grasping to the idea of who you want to be. Like, realistically, I know that I'll get where I want to go. I don't know how long it'll take, but the only issue is, right, how am I going to fund it if I haven't made it yet? And it's like, well, I could continue doing the talks that I'm doing in schools. I could do 3 of those a week and live after that. This is only if I don't want to play basketball anymore, or if I get a career-ending injury. It's like, I just want to let go of this grasp to do it all now. Get that future stuff now and dragging it to the present rather than just being in the present and doing it.
Yeah, I suppose that's the only problem, is just buying yourself time to put the inputs in.
Yeah.
That's the struggle. You just have to buy enough hours in a week.
And it's that risk and that fear that stops people from trying to flourish in something they actually care about. Like, think about Vicky as an example. She came across this apparent ability to communicate with animals. And she was a lawyer making decent money, but she hated it. And it's like, how do I make money from communicating with animals? Well, that's a risk and a fear. So it's like, well, she had to wean herself off to being a lawyer through doing lots of free sessions in her new skill. And then she learned ways that she could monetize it. And then she scaled that until she was half lawyer, half animal communicator. And then she weaned herself off more and more. And it's like, that ability to just do something new, take on a new role in the world, it's scary, but you just got to figure it out. Otherwise, then you'll just break your soul slowly until you retire and die. There's this quote from Charles Bukowski that I really like, where he said, find what you love and let it kill you. And that is how it feels. It's like, I would rather talk about the things we're talking about right now for the rest of my life and let it kill me and never make it money-wise or status-wise, any of that. I just want to be able to do it and let it kill me rather than conforming to what I should be to be safe. You know?
Yeah. Now, honestly, fair play to Nikki, because, like, also, like, she's kind of one of one. Like, there's no one really above her who's an animal communicator. She was probably, like, the first, and now there's, like, carbon copies of her. Like, she has, like, I mean, there's so many fake accounts of her just reposting her shit. And, God, it like, that's scary in itself, being the first one to try something new. How to put it on the internet. Everyone to see.
You have to do it. You have to really have to do a level of self-work to do that. To get to a point where you do not give a shit what the world says. And what I like about what we do, right, and the fact that we get cringy comments on Instagram or whatever, and, you know, I've been posting more content and trying to be more authentic and stuff online. It's like just building thicker skin to people having an opinion of you, because you realize someone can have an opinion of you, and the only thing it does is make you feel a bit differently. It doesn't actually change anything about your life. So can you train yourself to not feel differently? Like, if you don't care who they are, then why should their opinion matter?
Yeah. Have you got any people talking about that, by the way?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen many people from different communities, because it's been sort of summer and that. I've been around family and close friends, but okay, I might get a few comments at GB camps or whatever. But I'm in a place now where I just don't really care. And I think tapping into that mentality of just is what it is. I'm gonna try and hold on to my peace of mind best I can. That's my job.
How do you do that?
Breathe deeply. Notice what's going on around you. Listen to good atmospheric music. And get a good night's sleep. And eat good food. Make sure you're healthy physically. Like, because that makes you happy. And when you're happy, you don't care.
And didn't you also say this should be more a to-do list rather than a to-do list?
Yeah, that is a good idea, generally. I think if people just stop doing things that make them feel worse, then that would do like 90% of it. Because if you just stop doing things that make you feel worse, you're probably going to automatically do the things that make you feel better. Like if you stop, this is literally a note to myself, Joel, stop going on like YouTube or whatever when you want to go to sleep. Set up a good routine, read, journal, sleep. Right? Don't do the thing that interrupts that, and you'll do the good things probably. You know? So don't eat food. If you don't eat shit food, you're going to eat normal food.
I mean, maybe there's an argument against the to-do list with your kind of the way that the Alan Watts book said, kind of you're not particularly being. It's still the future, isn't it?
Yeah. And then it's that balance point, isn't it? Like I said, like my argument was, okay, all this is very nice and good and fun philosophical theories, but like I have to actually be a person. I can't just be a monk in a monastery sitting there breathing. Like I've got to go and like make stuff and learn stuff and play sport. And so how can I do that stuff and try and adopt the like applied Zen mentality, you know? Because to-do lists are useful because the future's coming. It might not be here now, but it's probably coming unless I die in the next 10 minutes.
It doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't exist yet, no. Because then even when you get there, it's still the present, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I agree.
My point to you though, Jake, I feel like you're not as far down the road to this as I am. Not that I've finished it, but I'm just on the road of like letting go of wanting this future so much. Like I know you are so ambitious towards a person you want to be in, a place you want to be in, a position you want to be in life. And all I say is that's great and that motivates you. And I love that about you. But I also want you to remember that when you make it, because you will eventually, because that's how your work rate is, you'll just keep pushing and pushing and pushing until you break that ceiling, you get there. When you get there, you'll still be annoyed about stuff. Like you might wake up in the morning and your back is achy because you're in your 30s now. Or like your kids will be waking you up at 4 a.m. Your newborn baby means you don't get a good night's sleep. Or your wife bought the wrong milk that you wanted for your porridge. Things will annoy you. Life will hit you with annoyances. And you're not going to get to a moment where suddenly, oh, you're relieved of all bullshit. Bullshit comes forever. And when I realized that if I did the things that I said would make me happy, or if I did the things that I say would make my life complete, I'd still have days where I just get pissed off.
Why do so many people say they preferred it when they were broke? Like a lot of these like famous people and stuff like that, and rich people.
Because imagine, Jacob, if like when you get to a certain level of business success or something, and you know that you have a company that you can basically sell for like 10 million or 100 million, right? You're a guy like Formosi. If he sold all his shit, he could have probably hundreds of millions. You just sat on that. What are you going to do? Like, what's the mission now? Like the game's complete, basically. The game you set out when you were broke, which was to get rich, is done. Now what? It's still a finite game. It might be a long one, but it's still a finite game. It's like chasing something, getting towards something is more meaningful than actually getting there and catching it. Like you said to me before, you enjoy the pursuit. That's what you enjoy. You enjoy the chase. focus on a long chase now. And when you eventually catch what you were chasing, maybe you will look back and go, oh, when I was in that shitty house in Southampton, working my ass off and getting nothing back from it, those were the days where I was in my prime. It's real though.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I think you'd have to learn new skills, or you'd have to give back. I mean, that's what most people do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tell your story.
Yeah. And we'll think about Hormozy as an example of like the guy just loves working. So he doesn't really care about the money. He just enjoys working. And he said in his episode on Model Wisdom recently that he is the goal. Just how much did I work? How much did I squeeze the juice out of today? When my head hits the pillow, am I satisfied with what I've done? That's his metric. It's not about money anymore, really. That's just how the game is scored.
Right. Yeah, this might be a good place to end.
Yeah. How long have we done? We just finished over an hour. Yeah. I'm happy to end it here if you are. That was good, mate.
Sure.
But I haven't hit a flow in a podcast like that for months.
No, I think your book point was very good.
And yours next? Next is Memories, Dreams, Reflections, an Autobiography by Carl Jung. Wow.
That's big.
Now that I'm back into probably reading again, mate. I mean, this is what? 450 pages. Sick. Anyway, yeah. Thank you. That was a good conversation.
No, thank you. Yeah. We came in with little and got about.
Came in with little and left with a lot.
Hopefully someone somewhere will think, okay, I might change this like a little in my life now.
Yeah. Or even just, you spent an hour pleasantly with our voices in your ear.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Anyway.